I've spoken to so many writers, and it seems it's almost a given. You can't write unless you're an avid reader. Is that correct? Is that a true statement?
Very true. On point.
That's your experience?
That's my experience.
Okay. So let's talk about Thread of Gold Beads.
Okay.
I have to say I really enjoyed it when I read it. Really, really enjoyed it. What inspired it?
I wanted to preserve history. That was number one. And I wanted to read a book that I hadn't seen around for a while. I hadn't seen so many historical fiction novels written by Africans. You see history of Africa being written by Europeans, by non-Africans.
That's true.
We need to start writing our own stories and being proud of writing our own stories. And so that's another reason for writing it. And also, I wrote it just for the joy of writing something that was inspired by a story that my grandmother told me. I wanted to leave a legacy. And so that was another reason. So what really inspired me and what started me writing this story was a story that stayed with me from the age of 8 or 9 years old, sitting beside my grandmother. And she told me stories, many stories she told me, but then this one stuck in my mind. She was talking about her grandmother not being from Nigeria. I'm like, what? That means you're really not from Nigeria. Her grandmother, my grandmother's grandmother, is not Nigerian. She's from Dahomey, from Benin Republic. And so she told us, I was like, why is she not from Nigeria? What happened? What happened? She's like, she fled during the war between the French and the Fon people. And so I didn't ask her much after that. I let it go. You're young, you're like, okay, whatever. She's an old woman, she's just talking. But apparently it stayed with me. So when I went to the United States, I had started my 9-to-5 job. I was just doing the normal stuff that young people do, trying to make money. But then I was like, okay, Nika, you used to write. In my boring times of not doing anything, not trying to go 9-to-5, just sitting home watching TV or whatever. I was like, let me just research what happened during the Dahomey War. What was the kingdom like? Let me figure out what happened. Let me imagine the life of my great-great-grandmother and what she could have gone through. And I did the research, and I was like, whoa. There's no way I'm not going to write a story about this. This is too much history. This is too much that people don't know about that I need to write about. And I wanted to write it in a way that people would enjoy, not just history. This happened this time and this year. So what? Let's make it interesting. Education is best known or preserved or learned when it's done in an enjoyable way. And I wanted to bring it across as something enjoyable for people to read, still get information about what happened during those times. And so that's why I wrote it as historical fiction.
I felt you tackled a major problem. I mean, what you just said now, it's a big problem. There's so much of our history lost. And I thoroughly enjoyed the way you encapsulated that in an interesting love story and all that. So what's the problem? Why don't we have a lot of regard, so to speak, for our history? Why do we lose so much history?
I think the fundamental issue is that we're not proud of who we are. Someone at the book reading I did yesterday at Pataba talked about that, kind of mentioned, and he said it so well, that Europeans, they talk about their father's someone they didn't know, saying that was my father's father, and they were so proud, and I am going to be. They are not yet that. But based on the legacy that their fathers' left before them, they are proud of who they are. Why can't we be like that? We need to be proud of who we are, and we need to be able to tell our own stories and not let someone else tell our stories. So I think that's the fundamental issue. We need to be proud and stand up for who we are as Africans. The bad, the good, the beautiful, the ugly. We need to embrace it and claim it as ours.
Are you planning to write more of this? Because we need to, you're smiling, it must have been tough work.
It was.
I know you got to write.
I will continue to write.
Must have been tough work. There must have been a lot of research that went into this.
And a lot of editing and throwing out stuff and hating your editor for a few weeks and going back to her like, okay, fine, let's get down to work again.
So how long did it take you to write this?
It took me 6 years.
6 years?
From idea to this.
And you are planning to turn this into a play?
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Yes, it's going to be it's actually being adapted into a play, and it's going to be on stage October 4th in the Washington D.C. area. 2 show times on that day, and so it's something I'm really excited about, and I want everybody who will be in the area to come out and support, enjoy, and learn history.
Did somebody suggest that to you, or did you just wake up one morning, let me turn this into a play? Or did somebody read it and say, this is good? I mean,
a lot
in
of
play
people,
form, let's
the
put it into a
feedback,
play.
the feedback was not even a play; it was a movie. That's what people said. But I'm like, no.
Yeah, this should be a movie, actually. Yeah, this should be a movie.
It's eventually going to be a movie.
Is
But
there
I
any,
think
is there any movie on the French Dahomey War? Is there any at all? I don't think so.
I think there is.
There is one.
I'm not sure, but I think there is. But I think there is something because I did my research on that.
I really feel bad how we lose so much history.
Yeah.
And this is a good thing. So, I mean, part of the feedback you got was to turn it into a play. You were saying
Into a movie. They said
a
turn
movie,
it
okay.
into a movie, but I want to take. It's not baby steps, but I think there's parts of this novel, the part about the wedding and some musical things that I think is going to come alive on the stage, even as well as the movies. And I think I want to take that step first into the play before I go into the movies. So it's the next step. Movies
Okay.
after that.
How well has Thread of Gold Beads been received in Nigeria?
Very well.
Very well.
I didn't know it was that well taken until the book reading yesterday. Some beautiful lady got up and just said, I don't want to ask you any question. I just want to say I read your book 4 times.
4 times.
I was surprised. I mean, I didn't know it would do as, I believe in my work, but when you get feedback from readers, you're like, wow. And you're just like, thank God it was in me, and I would have done myself an injustice and everyone else if I hadn't done it. It was like giving birth to a child. Thank God I pushed it out because it had been in me for a while. So I just thank God I was able to do it. I almost gave up.
So it's done pretty well. I think so too. I'm going to take you up a bit on what you just said now. What is it like, to have a book idea, literally be pregnant with it, and not birth it? I'm asking you this because there's so many.
Yeah.
I mean, every day we get people who ask, oh, I've got this book idea, I want to
Yeah.
write this book. And then we get a lot of manuscripts and so
Yeah.
on. So that's a question I've always wondered. There are people watching this probably who have book ideas in them, like you did 6-7 years ago before you wrote this. So what's it like? What should somebody like that do? What did you do?
Do your research. You have to make sure your work is different from any other person's work. You have manuscripts being pushed out every day. It's the same thing. Nobody wants to see that. It's the same. What makes your story different from every other person? If it is, how can you change it? That's the first thing you need to do. And then you have to know your market.
Strong business angle to this.
Yes.
This was self-published, wasn't it?
Yes.
Is this your company that published this?
Yes, it's my company.
Self-publishing is very tough.
It is.
Very tough.
Very.
Are you going to self-publish again?
Yes.
Okay.
I've learned a lot along the way, so why not continue?
It's tough.
It is.
Nike, thank you for joining us on the Channels Book Club. Thank you. Nice to have you here.